Welcome back to our final segment on Reform This. And we are honored to be joined this week with Asra Nomani, the author of Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. And every American needs to care about this book, needs to buy it. Go to Amazon.com, look for Woke Army, Asra Nomani, and you will get, it's not just, don't even think about this as simply a book about activism. It reads like a fiction novel and will keep you at the edge of your seat with real journalism, and you will look at the last 10 to 20 years where many of us working on the front lines against Islamism had the exact same battles you're seeing now against the left in school districts, in critical race theory battles, against the radicalism of Black Lives Matter, the radicalism of free speech suppression against COVID, diversity of opinion. Asra, we last left talking about coalitions. I think the one major takeaway for your book is America will survive if we form coalitions based on meritocracy and ideas that we embrace in diversity and the value of the ideas themselves rather than the skin-deep nature of identity politics. What can they do to actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk?
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody to go on this path that I've found extremely successful. So Zuhdi knows this about me. I am very guarded, right, Zuhdi? It's just nature of being a journalist, and you have the same dynamic, I know, from your own professional training. So when Zuhdi and I first met, we got to know our ideas and values, and then over the years developed this trust, right, that ended up at this meeting with many other Muslims in Washington, D.C., off New York Avenue. And there we wrote our Muslim Reform Movement Declaration. We established our values. And importantly, we stayed on those values, And what we did is we didn't create a 501c3 to push this new coalition forward, but we all worked within our own universes to contribute to the success of our values. And so fast forward to 2020, and I meet Suparna Dutta, I meet Yuyan Zhou, and Glenn Miller and Helen Miller, other parents at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. We see this war on merit. Well, by August, when we see that it's for real, Glenn and I are on the phone and we're just batting ideas around, and we're like, oh, shall we call it TJ Coalition? Shall we call it this? Well, we called it Coalition for TJ, and we made a Facebook page. We created a website, and we're off. We had brought this disparate group of parents together, just like we had with the Muslim Reform Movement. And that's what I want to encourage everyone to do. Decide common values that you've got with others and keep it simple. Just make it as simple as you possibly can. It can be 2 of you, it can be 5 of you, it can be 10 of you, it can be 1,000. But now, today, all you need is a few to be able to get an account on Canva and create free graphics and a logo. Run your Twitter account, send a MailChimp newsletter out to people, maybe start a Substack, and then send emails to have everybody show up at the school board or wherever you may be with their handmade signs reflecting the values that you care about. We've done it for the issue of merit when we learned that they had been withholding the National Merit Awards from students, including my son, in Fairfax County, Virginia. And guess what we did? We made national news. Zuhdi, it's just like you and I have done over all these years. You just work with the sincerity in your heart, and there's going to be mistakes along the way. You're going to find out, oh, this person's not exactly who I thought they were. There's going to be all that happening, but you just course correct, and your group, your community, that might be in a chat, in a Telegram chat or WhatsApp, you make an impact in the world. And it doesn't take much. You start writing op-eds, you write letters to the editor, and each person just does whatever they're comfortable doing, taking whatever risk they are ready to take. And I'm so happy to have joined this effort. Zuhdi, if you want to remind everybody what it is on the Clarity Coalition, because it's just like that.
Yeah, and I think what's amazing is the takeaway from I hope what people are hearing you say is when you form coalitions based on common ideas that not only what you're against but what you're for, they will be strong and last forever as a legacy. The left's coalitions are going to fall apart like a cheap suit because it's based on skin-deep identity. It's based on no value structure and simply opportunism, hypocrisy, and other things. So our Clarity Coalition, we just met as our foundational meeting back in Austria, in Salzburg, Austria, back in October 26th through the 30th, and Clarity stands for Champions for Liberty Against Radical Islamist Tyranny. And it included not only our Muslim Reform Movement leaders, but our non-Muslim allies from foundations and think tanks that were anti-jihad, anti-Islamist, and also women's rights activists and feminists, others. And we see that coalition actually coming to fruition in supporting the revolution that's had been a slow-growing revolution in Iran, to supporting Salman Rushdie after he was attacked last year in New York, and so many different examples of how our coalition, find our coalition, go to claritycoalition.org, and if you're interested, please join us. And I think it's a template, as Ezra has pointed out, of so many other value-based coalitions that can be successful.
Yeah, it's so inspiring, and it was so moving to me to meet so many members of the new Clarity Coalition in Salzburg. 20 years in this battle, and I met fellow warriors from Germany, from France, from the UK, people who were all motivated by some type of suffering in order to try to create a new reality for our world in which we fundamentally depart from the extremist ideology of Islamism. What is that ideology? Identity politics. It's a new hierarchy of human value. It's about Muslim supremacy. And what we all have to do in whichever way we can is come together in order to promote, just like you said, Zuhdi, the values that we care about, which is humanism, equality, merit, and I want to take back words like social justice, and progressiveness, because ultimately, I do believe that all that we are fighting for is the improvement in society and the departure from ideas that are regressive and reductionary and ultimately divisive. And so I'm so excited about the campaigns that we have for the future and the many ways that we're going to be able to expand our coalition, enter into the space of the K through 12 schools and the indoctrination that's happening there. We have so much to share because we have seen indoctrination happen, and we, just like so many of the Chinese immigrant parents, they can testify from their experiences in the Cultural Revolution, and we can testify from everything that we have seen and the way that madrasas, these schools, have been hijacked in order to indoctrinate children towards tyrannical ideas. Like we can be frontline soldiers in all of this because we are in a war. It's a war of ideas. It's a war of governments, non-state actors also, and I think just like you have said, we are fighting for something, and that's what we always keep as our North Star.
And so before we leave today, can you address, from the White House, for example, the press secretary just a couple days ago was asked about some woke ideologies and Disney and other things. Her response was that any criticism of woke is hate. It's bigotry. What's your response to that? Because your book, Woke Army, invokes the term wokeism as a harmful concept. Tell me why Americans simply should be afraid of wokeism and what harm it can do and why it's not bigotry and not hate.
Yeah. what we are fighting for is actual humanism and equality. And this is my simple argument, is that we as a people understand that it is unacceptable to have a hierarchy of human value. As Muslim reformers, that's what we recognize. We know this to be true. We in Islam then do not accept the idea of Muslims and non-Muslims in different levels, right? We reject that. We reject the criminalization of a human being based on their leaving Islam. So we reject a hierarchy of human value as a global society, as a fundamental value system. Islamism, for example, is all about a hierarchy of human value, Muslim supremacy at the top. What we have to understand is that wokeism is putting forward a new hierarchy of human value. It is using a crazy formulation, an algorithm based on identity politics. And that is not our value system as human beings. We do not evaluate that somebody based on the color of their skin is of higher value than another person, just as we reject the old hierarchy of human value that used to do that. Zuhdi, in Fairfax County Public Schools, these poor children literally were handed bingo cards for a game called Privilege Bingo. And in that privilege, they included, as somebody who is privileged, somebody who is white, somebody who has parents, mother and father, somebody who is also a military child. Can you imagine? So that military child who endures so much hardship is now being judged for their privilege. And so that's not okay. So from our children to society, we do not accept putting a dunce cap on anyone. And that's why your faith and belief that wokeism and Islamism is actually racist and is actually bigoted and intolerant is correct. Because any system that creates a new hierarchy of human value is bigoted, racist, sexist, and intolerant. And that's where I want everybody to always have clarity, to use that great word now, have clarity that you just stick to that simple principle that there is no hierarchy of human value and there should not be a hierarchy of human value, and nothing from the bully pulpit of the White House or social media will shame you or silence you, and you will stand strong with confidence for the values in which you believe and embrace. And in Woke Army, get the book, because it's not meant just as a read, but as an inoculation. I want you to be inoculated to their tactics, so that when you hear efforts like that to shame you and silence you, you'll know it, you'll understand it. It won't have an effect on your brain, and you will stand strong and unapologetically for the values that you care about.
Well, God bless you, Asra. That is amazing. I think, what we just witnessed in the last couple minutes is sort of the Asra Nomani clinic about what wokeism is and what the threat is, and why you're such a hero. I think this book reads almost like a fiction novel, in that we see all these books that are fiction that people just are at the edge of their seat and will buy them. But this is a fact-based book by a intrepid journalist that is doing the work that so few do. And it's just been an honor to have you on our program on Reform This, and you are amazing. Keep doing the work that you do. Please, everybody, get her book, Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. And follow her on Twitter at Asra Nomani, and also myself at Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, and the rest of us at MuslimReformMovement.org, ClarityCoalition.org, and other coalitions. Bring us together to help preserve the legacy that is American legacy, because our children are in the crosshairs of the Red-Green Alliance. Our children and our families are in the crosshairs of what American legacy will be, and without the Asras of the world, we don't have a chance. So thank you, Asra, and it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. You, as a brother, have made me stronger, and it's because of this kind of courage that you model that we're going to win, Zuhdi. We're going to win.
Thank you. Take care. It's good to see you.